Okay, welcome back, Cyber students. In this tutorial, we're going to be looking at grids, guides, and rulers, which are ways that you can sort of plan out your project before getting started, and ways that Illustrator can sort of give you um, just a head start on making sure that everything is lined up and the size that you're looking for. So we're going to click here at the top on the View menu, and the first thing we're going to do is go down to where it says Rulers and click Show Rulers. You can see here that this has added rulers to the top and side of my artboard, and you can see here at the top left is 0, 0 if we follow these lines across. And the nice thing is now where my cursor is, you can see this little line at the top that's moving back and forth and on the side, and it tells me basically what my position is in the page. So for example, if I want to make sure that I skip an inch from both corners when I make my first rectangle, I can line that up accurately. It also helps you measure things as you go across. You can see that line again at the top is coming across and that line at the bottom. So I can make sure that I'm getting somewhere close to a 2 by 2 rectangle. Now you can right click on these rulers and change what their units are. And in addition, you can click and drag off those rulers and it creates this perpendicular line that goes all the way across called a guide. You can see it's a white line right here. And I can also do it off the side, get a vertical line. Now these guides, an important thing to remember is guides don't print. But what they do allow is they allow for snapping and attaching things to it. So now if I try to move my square around, it will easily snap to where that guide is. If I want, I can make sure that the center of that square snaps in the center of this X I've just made. And when I go to make another object, it will snap to the guide and start along the guide. And I can even make sure that both parts of this snap along the guide. This can be helpful if you want to set up sort of a particular border or areas of a page if you're planning a poster. To clear your guides, you have to go down to the Guides tab here and clear them. You can also unlock them so they so they can be moved around with your arrow. So now I can grab them and move them. Once I get them to a place that I want them is probably the time when you want to lock them. So here maybe I'll leave an inch off the top and an inch off the left. And perhaps we'll put one more here. And that'll be how we separate the page for our poster. And now I can lock the guides. And now I can't grab them anymore accidentally. Again, they don't show in the print, and you don't have to worry about them, messing up your drawing. In addition, you can also scroll down on our View tab and turn on the grid with this Show Grid button. You can change the size of the grid in Edit, Preferences, Guides, and Grid. For example, right now there's a thick grid line every 1 inch, and it's broken up into 8 pieces. If I made this a 1, it will now I have an inch grid across it, across my page, which is we know is letter 8.5 by 11. If I want, I can also turn on Snap to Grid, and automatically when I try to make shapes and lines, it will hold me to this grid size. My objects here are showing it as visible because they don't have a stroke or a fill right now. And there we go. It's definitely important to be aware of your grid and your guides. It helps with planning. It just makes things a lot easier. I'm going to hide the grid and turn off Snap, and also clear my guides. And we're going to discuss the last grid, which people often tend to accidentally turn on, and it's called the perspective grid. And we probably won't be using the perspective grid for a long time, but basically it lets you draw as if you're drawing in 3D based on this little thing up here. So as I draw a rectangle now, instead of drawing like it's flat, it draws on the perspective grid. And I could, create a building, on a street, and stuff like we learn in art class. We will probably come back to this. The important thing to need to know is students often turn this on and don't know how to turn it off. But the easiest way is just to go back to View, Perspective Grid is what that's called, and click Hide Grid. And this gets you back to normal, and you notice I'm back to making rectangles that are on the rectangular plane.